Hey guys, we're out here on this 98 GTX with the new 951 engine. We're idling at about 1450 or so RPMs, 1400, 13. We're a little low, but you want to be a little, with these you want to be a little under 1500. Looks like we got water coming out the piston, so we're good there. She's got some get up and go. Okay guys, I'm adding this to the video. The test ride was going okay on this GTX, and then it faulted out like it was going into limp mode with some voltage issue with a rectifier. I've had that issue before, so I'm pretty common with it, pretty familiar with it. So what we're doing here, what we found out was the rectifier on this one, which I took off right here. This rectifier is actually for a 4-tech or 4-stroke. It's not the right rectifier. And what did I do? The harness here. This was the harness, the bypass harness. The connector on that, there's another one of these, a female one that goes here. Our ground wire was pulled out, so I got a new pin for it, but that was before I realized that this was the wrong rectifier. So we're gonna fix this one and probably sell this rectifier. So I don't know if I can test it or not, but I'll sell it really cheap. It was probably not the rectifier, it's probably just the wrong rectifier since someone put the wrong rectifier on it. So what was happening was I put the stock one back in. This one's off the on these models, the rectifier is built in, so they're not serviceable. So basically if the rectifier goes bad, you have to replace the whole unit or do a bypass. Do an external bypass. So that's what the previous owner did, but they used the wrong, they couldn't find the right kit, so they used the 4-tech kit and they had it bolted back here. We're going to fill these holes, plastic weld those holes shut. But what happened was it wouldn't run with the rectifier on. I'd hook up the factory one back up and we'd get start. Sometimes it would start, sometimes it wouldn't. It would struggle and then it would fire up and go. So my friend David Sebeilius, don't know if I'm saying his name right. He's out in Leeds, North Dakota. He's hooked me up with an aftermarket external rectifier on my 951 swap in my 95 XP. He's now hooked me up with one for this one. This heavy duty rectifier here with a nice harness. It's going to get mounted up front. He provides the hardware kit. So all you have to do on this, on his kit, is you have to, of course, take all this off, take your computer off, and then unmount this. It's got 4 bolts back there. And as you can see, this hardware piece, this aluminum piece here with the threaded holes, that's from his kit. So you got to drill out 2 holes in this plate to mount this, and it's got 2 flatheads that are behind this. And you can't really see, but, and then his rectifier using these bolts will bolt up to the back of that. So this here will get bolted back to the back of that. And then this harness ran all the way up there, and then you have the bypass piece here. So the old computer harness will plug into this one, and then this piece here will plug into that, into the engine. And then you have your positive and negative that go to the battery, of course. So it's a bypass. That way you don't have to buy a whole new computer just for a rectifier. So shout out to him for getting this to me, and I installed it, and I was still having some problems. And I did some digging, and we were checking the pins, and what happened was the pins inside there weren't locked in right, so they were pushed in and they weren't getting full connectivity. Now I'm not sure when that happened, if that happened for me just going plugging somebody back in and testing or whatnot, or if it happened from his harness or from the old harness. But right now I had to take off the exhaust pipe, which was a pain to do, and then I had to get some blocks underneath the engine, and I scratched up my nice paint job. As you can see, getting that pipe out in one piece, it is a pain to get that pipe out in one piece, but I didn't want to split it again, so I used some wood blocks. Still got a piece in here, and we unbolted our front engine mount, took this housing off because it's really hard to get in there. But basically I had to get from the back side of this and push all those wires back through there and get it to lock, get those pins to lock. So hopefully they stay locked now, otherwise I'm going to be putting this pipe back on just to take it back off, which is a pain. So my exhaust pipe is sitting in the trailer. We're going to get that back on, and of course I put a plastic bag in my hole here so I don't drop shit in the exhaust manifold. That's always a pain when you do that. So David and I spent some time trying to figure out and test this. We thought maybe his pins maybe these pins weren't connecting. So he's actually sent me another unit, which is probably arriving right now. We'll go check that as soon as the mailbox leaves, as soon as the mailman leaves. But yeah, there's a package there. I bet you that's it, David. I bet you that's the new package. Let's go check that out. Nope, that's actually for my dad. Okay, it didn't come. It's Friday and that still did not come, David. Of course, by the time I get this posted, it probably will have arrived. I'm gonna take this inside the house for Dad. Okay, so back to the GTX. The other rectifier kit still hasn't showed up. And he said that because we thought maybe there was something wrong with this one. Maybe there is, I don't know. But if there's nothing wrong with this one, then the other one will get sent back to him. And then I'll pay him for the right one and for all the great work he's done once we get this bad boy up and running. But David is a great guy to work with. He stands by his work on these kits. They're high quality, high output kits. So I got a pretty similar kit on the 951 swap, except I'm using the 800 electronics. I may have to keep one of these kits for if I ever switch to the 951 electronics on that. So I will need another wire harness for that one, but that'll be down the road. So we're gonna get this exhaust pipe back on, get this installed, and make sure we're running good. So give me a second. I'll get that. I'm gonna unhook this and get this bolted back up. Okay, so we got that bolted back up. Got that bolted in there. We're feeding our wires through, and on these GTXs, remember this front storage cover does come off, so you can reach up in there and feed your wires through, and you can also get to your fuel baffle a lot easier. And poor dummy me, on my very first one of these I did not realize that. I did not realize that. So we're feeding our wires up. So our stock harness plugs into this one. It's hard to do this with one hand. Our stock harness plugs into that one, and then this one plugs into that one, just like that. Now hopefully our pins are good. And then it runs back here. We'll zip tie all these wires up to the battery, and then we have an inline fuse. So all this will get zip tied back up nice and neatly, and we'll get that exhaust pipe back on. Good old trusty zip ties. Okay. Very boring just watching me zip tie wires up. I had a problem down here because that air box slides in here. You got all this stuff. It's just a very, very bad design. And then you got that boot that comes down, and basically all your cables here stuff are right in the way of that boot. It's just a horrible design, Sea-Doo. Come on. Not to mention the pipe going right over the exhaust, or right over the exhaust pipe going right over the carbs. I love the 800s where you got, they're on the opposite side, so you don't literally. It's a lot better to work on the carbs if you take the exhaust pipes off on these 951s, and that's just a crap ton of work, especially if you got to split the pipe. Why Sea-Doo made this motor this way, I do not know. I don't. If they could have just did like they on the 800s and had it the other way, I don't know. But other than that, 951 motors, you know, it's their most powerful motor, you know, stock motor wise, but it's always been prone to water ingestion because of the intake, the style of the intake on it. So anyway, I'm gonna stop this video and I'm gonna get some stuff buttoned up, and we'll start back up once we get the pipe back on. Okay guys, so we're getting the pipe situated, and I was fighting getting it out in one piece, and of course going to fight to get it back in one piece. So I brought out the good old trusty shop vac, and I zip tied the hose up here, so it was like that. Zip tied it that way, and of course I covered up everything with my towel, covered up my intake and carbs with the towel, and used my good old trusty Dremel tool like we did on the 951 swap, and we opened up this. As you can see, probably a 1/4 inch difference. We opened it up, and she slipped in a lot nicer, because it always wants to catch either on the Welch plug that's over here or the clamp. It's just so tight. But now you notch that out a little bit, and she fits right in. We didn't struggle at all really getting it back in. So now we're going to get our bolts and our mounts back in, Loctite and torqued back down. get our intake back in, our air box, and get everything situated. So hopefully within the next hour I can have it started and we can take another test ride. So that's where we're sitting at. Gotta get all my bolts, and I put everything in a bin. As you can see here, nice and organized. But we'll get it all back together. There's only a few bolts. I'm gonna put this shop vac away and we'll get started. But yeah, so anyone that has one of these 951s, especially in these GTXs, go ahead and do what I did. You might be able to do it with it in, cover everything up. Use a shop vac to suck up your dust. Still got some in here, but the shop vac sucked up most of it. But the main thing is to make sure your intake, all your ports are covered. You don't want any of that crap getting inside the engine. It's still fine. It probably won't cause any issues, but it might clog a jet or whatnot if it gets wet and built up in there. But just go ahead and notch that out. Save yourself a lot of trouble and headache. Doesn't take much. So that's my tip for the day. Save yourself some headache getting that 951 in and out as one piece. You don't have to mess with that damn clamp anymore. Okie dokie, let's get started. Okay, so got all our bolts Loctited, torqued down. Of course, the back nut back here is a real pain to get to. So we make this, it's a 15 millimeter nut, or you need a 15 millimeter wrench with a bend on it, and grind it down, and it goes in there just like that, so you can turn it about a quarter of a turn each time. It is a pain in the butt. They make one on Amazon or eBay, but it's too thick. They won't get around the nut between the base of the nut and the pipe. So you have to grind it down, and you can make it work. But that one's like 20 bucks. Otherwise, just go buy yourself a cheap 15 millimeter wrench, heat it up, put a nice bend on it, test it out a few times, and then grind it down as you go. As you can see, it's got some ground. It's real thin right here, but you can still get plenty of torque on it. I got to put some zip ties on some hoses. Get this air box in. It is always a pain in the butt to get in. It wants to catch right here on your engine mount. And of course you got hoses and everything else and cable, your choke cable. And then here what we're talking about back here, you can see this other boot on this side has to come up right where all those cables are and those lines. It's just a stupid design, but I gotta get that on. Put this bracket here that holds it all, get that on, and we'll be butting it all up. Got my exhaust pipe all tight, all hose clamps back. So just a few more things to get done. Put this back on. I hope I didn't lose a clip. I probably did. It's supposed to be 4 of those. There's one. That's a rock. And they just press in just like that. Looks like I'm missing one. I know it was there when I took it off. It might have dropped in here somewhere. I'll find it. Otherwise it probably dropped in the engine bay. But as you can see, I got a mess here. Trying to get a lot done really fast. In fact, I think I see it. There it is, right there. There we go. She's all back in. So I'll get that air box situated. Get some zip ties on it. Get the battery hooked back up. Also mounted the fuse holder right here. A little light, but just a clip. There was already a hole in this bracket. I just had to make the hole in the fuse holder a little bit bigger. Had to drill that out. But yeah, it's a nice little holder, nice little spot. The ground cable and the positive cable have plenty of room. So David did a good job with that. It's almost like that's where he wanted it. That's probably where it was designed to go. But one of the last things is we'll get these holes here plastic welded up. We'll get zip ties and zip ties and zip ties and more zip ties. So thanks for watching the video, guys. I'm pretty sure this will wrap it up. I'll take this out and test it later on. Feed this. Of course. Okay. So this is for the new rectifier. Just like that. David does a really good job with those kits, and he's a devoted guy. You're probably wondering what this stick was in there for. When I was doing the wood blocks, I had to push them back up. And a good old stick helps push when you drop a socket or a wrench underneath the hull, underneath the engine, so you can push it back out. So that's what that stick was in there for. As you can see, we got grease on our new carrier bearing. We greased up our PTO boot. So I'm going to let this, we'll get all this buttoned up. We're going to let it sit for a day while the Loctite cures. And we'll do another video of starting it up and hopefully a water test. There's my PTO cover. That'll go on last. So stay tuned for that, guys. Also, GTS update is coming on the 97 GTS. Stay tuned for that one. And we got 2 new engines in from Peter at Fox Valley. Rebuilt 717s. The first one will be going in this bad boy, and the second one in that one over there. So I took this one, filled in the holes with epoxy. Looks like I got to do some more, but that epoxy likes to sink down in there, but we got plenty of time to work on this. We got the decals removed. Got a few up there to remove still. We got the hole pretty cleaned out on this. She's pretty clean. So there's our engine mount plate in there. So we'll do an unboxing for that engine coming up soon. It's still in the tote. I'm walking to the garage. This is the second one. That one just came in the other day. And then there is the first one. So, Fox Valley Power Sports. As you can see, the zip ties are still on. I have not opened it yet. The way Peter sends them back. So, he didn't even cut the zip ties. He didn't even cut the zip ties. So yeah, we'll do an unboxing videos of those coming up shortly. Stay tuned for those. Probably open them up both, inspect them, make sure they're good. And here are the 787-800 motors. We got fresh powder coat. Remember in the last video how crappy these look? I'll bring them in the light. They were sandblasted, and that purple is damn near perfect to original, I tell you. Here, bring it the light. Oh, maybe I can see it. I don't know. Yeah, look at that. That thing is a beauty. So yeah, one of the 800s is sitting right there upside down. I got to do some gel coat repair. Got to patch that right there. So stay tuned for that. So once that's done, we'll get a kill guard on it, flip it back over, start installing the engine, and then do some detail work on the top. We got to remove the old crappy HydroTurf mats and put some fresh stuff on it. So stay tuned for that. Want to get both of those done. They probably won't see the water this summer, but I got so many projects, guys, so many projects. And I work 12 hours a day at work almost, it feels like. At least 11. So, and then I come home and rinse on skis and occasionally get out and ride. I'm hoping to do some riding this afternoon. I got to replace a rectifier in the 96 here. That's a quick 20-minute job. Yeah, rectifiers are just, I mean, I tell you, they go out all the time. While I was doing some wet sanding on the GTS, I took the took my sander and the sandpaper and did a little bit on this. You can tell the difference from the side to side. So she'll clean up pretty nice, and that was just with 2500. So imagine taking a little more off, polishing her up, hitting her with a buffing wheel. She'll shine. Hopefully we can get some of this number residue or hope that blend that in. But yeah, still got to figure out what the issue is with this, with the throttle position sensor and other electrical crap. That's on the back burner. Got to get this one done first. So stay tuned for the fire up and water test on this, guys. Appreciate it. Hit that like button, leave me a comment, subscribe please. Want to get some subscriptions, more subscriptions, and get that count up. I think I'm at like 359. I'd like to be close to 400 by the end of the summer. I mean, that's not a lot, but you know, every subscriber counts. I'd like to hit 1,000. Maybe I can start making some money from these videos. Help, you know, feed projects. So stay tuned for more, guys. See you soon.